What is up, Nets fans? Welcome to the live Brooklyn Buzz. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me, as always, Jack Manuel. What's up, Jack?
Had a lot of candy, a lot of lollies, Nick. I'm ready to go.
That's what I like to hear. Get that sugar high going, Jack, to talk Nets. As always, just quick reminder, check us out, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, OTGBasketball.com, NetsRepublic.com, Dash Radio, and YouTube. But tonight, we're previewing Bulls versus Nets. Obviously, the Nets took an L last night to the Celtics, looking to bounce back tonight. Jack, you feeling confident about this game?
Yeah, relatively confident, Nick. Obviously, on any back-to-back, there's a little bit of trepidation. But at the same time, the Nets have, beat the Bulls twice this season. The last one in more convincing fashion. So, with Trevion Graham back as well and in the starters, Joe Harris is still there. You'd expect to get the win, but anything can happen, and the Bulls have had some rest, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, the Nets have been playing a lot better at home. Obviously, you mentioned your piece for Nets Republic. They got some good rest last night. Not a lot of players played over 25 minutes. I think you mentioned the only guy was DeMar Carroll playing 28 minutes. Obviously, the whole D'Angelo situation only playing 24. He should be well rested. It's a game the Nets need to handle. If they've done a good job of that over the last month, it's another one where they just need to take care of business.
Yeah, I think, fatigue hits everyone at this time of year, just heading into the All-Star break. It's the teams that can manage it best. And, we sort of criticized Kenny at times in terms of the man management, but this is the time where it should be paying dividends in these back-to-backs and these sort of matchups. And at home, where we've had a very good record. So hopefully we can put a good performance for the home fans.
Jack, just quickly before we preview the game, what did you think? Obviously, we mentioned the situation last night, and we got the quote afterwards from Kenny, also a quote from D'Angelo. What were your thoughts on that? And to give our listeners just an idea what it said, Kenny said he benched D'Angelo because he didn't go after a rebound, and it's a teaching moment. And D'Angelo, pretty much to summarize it, said he trusts Coach Kenny. If they've gotten this far, he's a good coach, et cetera, et cetera. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, video was posted online as well. So you take everything at face value. I'm not 100% in on the reasoning behind it. I think a lot of it probably was rest, because I think Coach Kenny went into detail even more so, saying it was the benching, saying it also was the fact that they've got a back-to-back. So I think that was one part of it, but the full extent of it was probably, he wanted to rest his guy as well. And at the same time, go with, whoever was out there at the time. But to be only down by 7, it's still frustrating as a fan. But, you move on to the next one. And, if it pays off and D'Angelo Russell's out there tonight 35 minutes, hitting some big shots, then, all is forgiven.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they win tonight, we're not really going to be concerned about it. So it'll kind of just get swept under the rug. I think Nets fans kind of got a little crazy. Obviously, I understand the frustration, but I didn't think it was a huge deal. Obviously, looking forward for the future, they've been pretty big on the performance team and managing minutes and whatnot. But looking at this game, you mentioned already the Nets are 2-0 against the Bulls, both wins coming in Chicago. One game was kind of a grind out game. The second game, they pretty much blew them out in the second half. What can we take away from those games, if anything?
No, I think you can take away from the fact that the Nets have the wood over the Chicago Bulls. That we are a much better team. The Bulls have some talent. They have some guys. Bobby Porter seemed to do some work against us. They've got some, nice-ish pieces. Larry Markkanen and Wendell Carter are going to be stars of the future. But at the same time, the Nets right now, with their depth and their ready-made NBA talent and the production that we've put out, we have the roster to capably perform against any other team. And when it comes to teams like, New York, Chicago, we need to just take care of business and get off to a good start, limit those turnovers, and make a statement.
Yeah, and then we talked about this pretty much in the Knicks game. The Nets need to get out to a good start, kind of take care of business, put this team in its place. They are the more talented team. They're more experienced team. They've been playing better all season long. Looking over the last 10 games, the Bulls are 1-9. The Nets are 7-3. Obviously been one of the hottest teams in the NBA over the last month. So just kind of take care of business, like I just said. Now, talking about that, Bulls players, who are you concerned about kind of keeping under wraps? Is it Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, or just pretty much both those guys?
I think obviously you'd say both of them, but I'm confident the return of Trevion Graham that we can take care of some of those guys. But I think Zach LaVine, in the absence of Spencer Dinwiddie and with Shabazz Napier lacking some size and D'Angelo Russell obviously waxing and waning in his defensive efforts, I think it's a danger game there. Chris Dunn seems to always perform pretty well also. Chris Dunn has had some nice performances against D'Angelo Russell. The first matchup that we have with him, Dunn probably had the wood over him. I think it was only like 13 points D'Angelo had. So Diller's going to have to come fired up. Chris Dunn is a a very capable, point guard defender, one of the better ones in the league. So there's a few guys, especially in that backcourt, that for me can certainly make a difference. And I think Bobby Portis as well. I think just that physical sort of presence always worries the Nets.
Yeah, and for some reason, I'm not mistaken, he hit a lot of threes against the Nets so far this season, which is kind of crazy. But you mentioned Chris Dunn. He did a great job in that first matchup really getting into D'Angelo. Felt like in the second matchup, the Nets did a better job of kind of opening up space for D'Lo. That's going to be important tonight. Obviously, Dinwiddie's still out, LeVert's still out, Crabbe's still out, Dudley's still out. But like you mentioned, Graham coming back. Also, Joe Harris is playing tonight. So it's just going to have to be a team effort. Guys are going to have to step up. Who are some guys you're looking to step up tonight? Obviously, D'Angelo, we'll talk about him a little bit later, but of the role players, who really needs to have a big game?
I'm looking to Jared Allen and Joe Harris. Two starters that, obviously Joe Harris only played 19 minutes last game, so he should be fresh. Obviously, the questionable injury left him subpar of sorts, but I'm expecting a big from Joey Buckets if he's playing some extended minutes as well. He's healthy. He's running off screens. The article for the New York Times, which is a great one for those that haven't read it yet. Coach Kenny's lied to him. He wants him to take more bad shots, but Joe just doesn't do it because he wants to be a good teammate and a coachable player. So I want Joey Buckets to put up some buckets. Literally just put up some buckets.
Put up some buckets. Yeah.
Literally put up buckets. And with Jared Allen, I just want to see that aggression. We saw that aggression against the Houston Rockets, against teams that lack real size. I don't think Lopez is a world beater. I don't think, Wendell Carter Jr. is a world beater in any sort of sense. Jared Allen has all the tools to, really make an impact tonight, and especially on the glass and, in the pick and roll. I think that he can get off to a good start. It'll do the world of good for him.
Yeah, we haven't really seen a big Jared Allen game probably since that Houston game. It would be nice for him to get 20 points. Obviously, last year's rookie season, he had that monster poster on marketing. So obviously kind of dominating the paint a little bit, like you said. Wendell Carter, still a rookie. Laurie's not known for his defense, and Robin Lopez isn't probably quick enough to keep up with Jared Allen. So this is a great opportunity for him to kind of bounce back.
Yeah, and it's not to say that Jared Allen still doesn't have an impact when on the floor, but it's almost in a sense where we just want him to continue to show that aggression. When he is aggressive, it really means good things for Nets, putting in dunks, showing force on both ends of the floor, swatting away, denying, any shot around that rim sort of area. So if he can, get one or two blocks early, get a dunk or two, an easy dunk or two, then I think that generally does the world of good for any guy, but let alone a guy of Jared Allen's caliber.
Yeah, especially against a team like the Bulls who, aren't always going to make the proper rotations, especially if D'Angelo were to get hot in this game. It would make sense for Jared Allen to get some really easy dunks. Now, anybody else on the team you're looking to have a bigger game, or what do you think about the G League guys? Obviously, Theo Pinson and Mitch Creek are going to see some more minutes tonight too.
Yeah, I mean, the return of Trevion Gray, maybe one of those guys probably doesn't see as much. I would assume that would probably be a guy like Mitch Creek, despite the fact that he looked nice, 6 points, and he looked pretty comfortable on the floor. He's a bigger body, obviously 26 years old, and he's a ready-made sort of physical presence. Theo Pinson seems to be, gaining in confidence as well. Obviously, with our guard rotations, I just think that he just adds something in terms of he has a little bit more size than a Shabazz Napier. I think, the last game where he was hitting those threes and then they were absolutely raining and at home, I think that should bode well for a guy like him. Most sort of role players tend to play a lot better in front of their home fans. So hopefully, we see Theo with some extended minutes and him dropping some buckets and handing out some dimes. He's a very talented player. It's just about, against this Bulls team, which doesn't have a remarkable backcourt, especially with their backups, I think he can certainly make an impact.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Jack. Obviously, Mitch Creek, you might see a little bit less minutes because Trevion Graham, but Theo Pinson should see minutes. Like we talked about kind of on the last show, secondary ball handler, showed some decent things on defense, kind of working that three-point shot. Thinks this is another game probably where DeMarre could really step up, kind of get inside against this young Bulls team, do his little caroling act, and get some foul calls there too as well.
Yeah, I think DeMarre Carroll's been sensational of late. There was some talk, I can't remember, I was on Santini's podcast and trading him for Nikola Mirotic. It makes sense in essence, obviously, in terms of the spacing and what Nikola Mirotic would provide us, but Tomorrow's just been so valuable for us along this stretch. I think he's probably been the most consistent performer, and coming off the bench as well. He's playing starter-level basketball. But I think his presence off the bench, his leadership, and just his ability to get to the basket and draw fouls and hit the three ball. He just looks very confident right now. He's playing some very good basketball.
Yeah, and you mentioned that trade idea. I think the one thing that would hurt the Nets in that scenario would be the leadership. And Damari's been great for these young guys. Jared Dudley's even talked about him and Damari are really the leaders of this team, and Ed probably too. So losing him from Mirotic, I'm not saying, Mirotic isn't a leader, but I don't think he brings the same type of presence as Damari Carroll does. Obviously, on the court, it's a little bit different, but off the court, I think Damari brings something special.
Yeah, he really does. And he's just the epitome of the Brooklyn culture. He really sets that, like you mentioned, with all the vets. He's got a great relationship with all the guys, especially D'Angelo Russell. So I don't think that the Nets would probably make that move, despite from the outside perspective, if you're a non-Nets fan, it does make a lot of sense. But, culture means a lot, especially with this Brooklyn Nets team going forward.
Now, Jack, what are some do you want to talk matchups or keys to winning this game first?
Well, we can do it either one, Nick. I've done my Nets Republic pregame article. I think that the matchups we've sort of touched on in terms of the front court and the back court. So maybe keys to winning the game.
All right, what are your keys? Give me 3 keys, Jack. Obviously, like you mentioned, you wrote a great article on netsrepublic.com. If you prefer to read it and not listen, go check that out.
Yeah, I mean, hearing my voice can be tenuous at the best of times, though. But if you do like to listen to it, then my 3 sort of points were obviously D'Angelo Russell firing, points in the restricted area and passing. Obviously, the Nets were outscored in points in the paint, and their passing and their offense certainly stagnated last game. And as well, Coach Kenny managing those rotations, which Nick touched on at the start with, only a few guys, only 5 guys playing 25 minutes or more, and Damari leading the way with 28 minutes. All these guys should be fresh. Trevion Graham's back. D'Angelo Russell only played 24 minutes. Joe Harris only played 19. So there's a few keys, but if we can get those things done, I think it'll go a long way to getting the W.
Yeah, I like the fact attack the paint, especially against this young team, likely to foul or give you easy shots in the paint. So I think that's something to do right from the start. And then also, like you mentioned, Jack, look, we kind of talked about it a little earlier, is limit Lauri Markkanen, limit Zach LaVine, force some of the other guys to beat you that aren't necessarily offensively gifted. And I think against a team like this that I like to see more, and we've talked about this a lot this season, is force more turnovers, especially against a young team that's prone to make mistakes. They're not playing great basketball. Get yourself some easy buckets in transition.
Yeah, the Nets are actually pretty good at that against Boston. I think that I think they did win the turnover battle. It was like 18-17. And, we saw D'Lo, getting his active hands against Marcus Smart. I think that, and I think we did win points off turnovers as well at the same time. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come, especially against a Chicago Bulls team, which certainly doesn't have the talent of what a Boston Celtics does.
And that's something that the zone can do for you. If you're communicating well in the zone, you're forcing tougher passes, you're closing those passing lanes, getting those tip passes like you mentioned with D'Angelo. Maybe Rondé get some tip passes in there, Jared Allen with the blocks. Just get things going. I think it's an easy way to get confidence, especially in a home game. You kind of get the crowd going with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. It certainly energizes the crowd. We see Rodion Kurucs in sort of his signature move, get that steal and dunk. It certainly gets everyone going. It'd be nice to see D'Angelo Russell get a fast break. Fast break,
actually
sort of
fast break, right?
He's not the quickest bloke out there, but he's too smooth to be too quick out there. But yeah, it certainly energizes the crowd, gets and forces the timeout from the opposition, and gets things going again. And yeah, that zone obviously wasn't on completely against the Boston Celtics, but against the Chicago Bulls team, in terms of the defense, when we talked in the post game, it's throwing different looks, trying to catch the offensive team off guard. So hopefully the Nets can do that. The communication can stay on point, and they're engaged on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, and also, Chicago's, like we mentioned, not as offensively talented as Boston, so there's going to be more opportunities to kind of close out, and guys shooting threes not as big a deal. Where you look at the Boston roster, they might not be shooting great this season, but a lot of good shooters on that team. And you mentioned Rodions. We didn't even talk about him a little bit. I think this is an opportunity for him to bounce back against a younger team. I think it's a little bit easier for him to kind of hit his stride, except, going against like a veteran team like Boston, who's going to play physical, who's going to play tough, where, Chicago, you're not going to really get that.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for Rodions. Obviously, again, those sort of players tend to play a lot better at home. And Rodions has done that plenty of times as well this season. Most of his best games have come, in front of the Barclays Center crowd. So if he can, hit the 3 ball and, get a few dunks, get his cutting game on, and D'Lo can feed him, then I think we should see a nice performance from him as well.
Yeah, cutting game is a great point, especially against a young team like Chicago. It should be an opportunity for him. Jack, now, X player will have a big game, the Nets will win.
D'Angelo Russell. I'm going the obvious one here. I think that he had the glimpses against Boston, but I'm expecting a sustained performance from him. And, he's going to show out and lead the way.
I just feel like I want to be different. I think D'Angelo is a great choice. I'm going to go with Jared Allen. I'm just looking for a bounce back game for the big fro. Think he can throw some monster dunks down, get that confidence back up, be aggressive. Obviously, didn't play huge minutes last night, so getting some rest. Now, prediction for the game.
I'll go the Brooklyn Nets by 8.
I like it. That's like the most confident I think I've ever heard you about a Nets
Well,
win your entire existence.
Did I predict us against the Knicks as well?
Yeah, you did. You did. You
Okay,
predicted
good.
the win. So we're okay.
Okay.
We're allowed to do this. And
Okay, thankfully.
like we mentioned, we are undefeated on these pregame shows. So that's why we didn't do one against Boston. We're a little nervous, so we didn't want to ruin the streak. So today we feel confident. I'm going with the Nets by plus 10. Plus 10. I think it might be a close game. It's kind of similar to the last one. They're just going to blow them out in the fourth quarter.
Hopefully we can see that. I'll be happy with that.
Any final thoughts, Jack, before we get out of here?
No, I think if we can do all the things that we mentioned, Nick, and D'Angelo has a good game, makes for good content for me, makes for good content for OTG and netsrepublic.com.
Yeah, good content for me too. Get some great highlights. Last game against Boston, it wasn't necessarily fun with the highlights. I had like 5 for the whole game. So not really something looking forward to. But as always, thank everybody for listening. Pleasure, Jack, talking Nets with you. Check us out, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, OTGbasketball.com, netsrepublic.com, Dash Radio, and YouTube. And check us out after the game. We'll be going live to talk about the results.